For decades, Portugal was Europe's hidden gem. Sun-drenched beaches, rich history, affordable living that attracted retirees and digital nomads. The country emerged from its 2011 debt crisis, celebrated as a comeback story. But 2026 reveals a darker reality. Over 100,000 citizens emigrated in 1 year, fleeing a country where median salaries can't match property prices, up 120% in Lisbon. Meanwhile, 1.7 million people lack family doctors as thousands of healthcare workers fled abroad. The country now welcomes 30 million tourists, triple its population, generating billions but creating jobs paying barely enough to cover rent. Portugal spends far below the EU average on innovation while its population shrinks annually. The dependency ratio will double by 2050 as fewer workers support more retirees. Tourism boomed, property values soared, but the very success that was supposed to save Portugal may be destroying it. How did this paradise become a gilded cage for its own people? Today, we're uncovering why Portugal is going broke. Portugal's economy has become dangerously addicted to tourism. In 2025, tourism directly contributed 50 billion euros, roughly 12% of GDP factor in indirect effects like restaurants, transportation, and vacation rental construction. And that climbs to 15 to 17% of the entire economy. Let's put that in perspective. Tourism now accounts for more of Portugal's economy than the entire manufacturing sector. A country of 10 million people has bet its future on an industry that vanishes during pandemics, economic downturns, or shifts in travel trends. Portugal welcomed over 30 million international visitors in 2025, 3 times its own population. Lisbon and Porto have become open-air theme parks where locals are outnumbered by tourists taking selfies. The Algarve has become a seasonal economy, thriving for 4 months and struggling for 8. But here's the deeper problem. Tourism creates low-wage, low-productivity jobs. Hotel cleaners, restaurant servers, Uber drivers don't build skills or drive innovation. They don't create high-value employment that sustains modern economies. The average tourism worker earns 900 euros to 1,200 euros monthly, barely covering rent in Lisbon or Porto, let alone building savings or starting families. Manufacturing or technology sectors pay wages 40 to 60% higher and develop skills that compound over time. Yet Portugal systematically underinvested in these industries, choosing instead to turn historic neighborhoods into Airbnb districts and coastlines into resort corridors. The volatility is terrifying. When COVID-19 hit, tourism revenues collapsed 60% overnight. Tens of thousands lost jobs. Recovery has been strong, but it exposed fundamental weakness. When your economy depends on people choosing to vacation in your country, you're one crisis away from catastrophe. The tourism boom has pushed property prices so high that tourism workers can no longer afford to live in the cities they serve. It's an economic paradox eating Portugal from within. Walk through Lisbon's Alfama district or Porto's Ribeira, and you'll see construction scaffolding, renovation projects, and for sale signs with prices unthinkable a decade ago. Portugal's property market hasn't just grown, it's exploded. Between 2015 and 2025, Lisbon property prices rose over 120%. Porto saw nearly 100% increases. What was once Europe's most affordable country has become a real estate pressure cooker where central Lisbon apartments cost 4,000 euros to 5,000 euros per square meter, comparable to Paris or Barcelona. But here's the cruel twist. These prices aren't driven by Portuguese wages. The median salary is around 16,000 euros annually, among Western Europe's lowest. The average worker would need to save their entire salary for 15 to 20 years to buy a modest apartment in their own capital. House prices have completely detached from income reality, so who's buying? Foreign investors, golden visa applicants, wealthy Northern European retirees, and international investment funds snapping up entire buildings for short-term rentals. Portugal created the Golden Visa program in 2012, offering residency for 500,000 euro property investments. By 2023, it had brought in over 6 billion euros, but turned Portuguese cities into investment vehicles for global capital. The government suspended golden visas for property in 2023, but damage was done. An entire generation has been priced out. Home ownership among under 30s plummeted from 50% in 2000 to just 25% in 2025. This creates a wealth trap. Older Portuguese with existing property see paper wealth increase, while young people remain locked in permanent rental status, paying ever higher rents that prevent saving. This isn't prosperity, it's a landlord economy where the next generation works to pay rent to the previous one or to foreign owners. When capital flows into property instead of productive industries, innovation starves. Portuguese businesses struggle to find investment because everyone would rather buy another apartment to rent on Airbnb. If you want to understand Portugal's low-wage trap, look at innovation investment. Portugal spends just 1.6% of GDP on research and development. The EU average is 2.3%. Even Spain and Greece spend more. This represents a fundamental choice. Portugal won't compete in high-value industries. While Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands pour resources into artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and advanced manufacturing, Portugal remains stuck producing cork, textiles, and footwear, industries that don't generate the wealth or wages modern economies need. The productivity crisis is devastating. From 2010 to 2025, labor productivity in Portugal grew just 0.7% per year. The EU average was nearly double at 1.3%. Over a decade, that gap compounds into massive disadvantage. Portuguese workers produce less value per hour, so companies can't afford higher wages. So talented people leave, further weakening productivity. It's a vicious cycle. Portugal's export profile tells the same story. Top exports are vehicles and vehicle parts assembled in foreign-owned factories, refined petroleum, footwear, textiles, and cork. Low-margin manufacturing and commodities. Where are the software companies? The pharmaceutical giants? The engineering firms? They barely exist. In 2025, high-tech exports accounted for just 7% of Portugal's total manufactured exports, well below the EU average of 18%. This lack of economic complexity leaves Portugal vulnerable. The brain drain amplifies everything. In 2025 alone, over 100,000 Portuguese citizens emigrated, 1% of the entire population leaving in a single year. These aren't just any immigrants. They're doctors trained at Portuguese expense now working in Germany, engineers educated in Porto now coding in London, researchers who studied in Coimbra now innovating in Boston. The irony is brutal. Portugal invests what little it has in educating its youth, then watches them leave to build careers and pay taxes elsewhere. Portugal's National Health Service, the SNS, was once a point of pride. Created in 1979, it promised universal healthcare to all citizens. But today, that system is collapsing under the weight of underfunding, bureaucracy, and mass emigration of healthcare workers. Over 1.7 million Portuguese, roughly 17% of the population, don't have an assigned family doctor. In rural areas, that number exceeds 30%. Emergency room wait times regularly stretch to 10 to 12 hours. Cancer patients wait months for treatments that should begin within weeks. The World Health Organization ranks Portugal's healthcare system 32nd in Europe for responsiveness, a shocking fall from grace. Why? Because Portugal spends just 6.3% of GDP on public healthcare, compared to the EU average of 7.8%. That gap translates to billions in missing investment every single year. Hospitals operate with outdated equipment. Staff work crushing overtime. Salaries for doctors and nurses remain 30 to 40% below what they could earn in Germany, France, or the UK. The result is predictable. Healthcare workers are leaving in masses. Between 2020 and 2025, over 3,000 doctors and 8,000 nurses emigrated. That's not a brain drain, it's a hemorrhage. And replacing them is nearly impossible when the working conditions are this poor and the pay this low. Portugal's population is aging rapidly, with 23% now over 65, one of the oldest populations in Europe. These people need more healthcare, not less. Yet the system is moving in the opposite direction, shrinking capacity just as demand explodes. By 2040, over 30% of Portuguese will be elderly. Who will care for them? Every year since 2010, Portugal has recorded more deaths than births. The population isn't just aging, it's shrinking. The fertility rate sits at 1.4 children per woman, far below the 2.1 needed to maintain population levels. At this rate, Portugal's population could fall from 10 million to just 7 million by 2080. Fewer young people means fewer workers, which means less economic activity, which means less tax revenue, which means the government can't afford pensions, healthcare, or infrastructure. It's a death spiral in slow motion. The dependency ratio, the number of retirees per working age adult, is already one of the worst in Europe, and is projected to double by 2050. That means each worker will have to support twice as many pensioners through their taxes. It's mathematically unsustainable, and unlike countries that can offset demographic decline with immigration, Portugal is a net immigration country. More people leave than arrive. The immigrants who do come often end up in low-wage tourism or agriculture jobs, not the high-skilled positions needed to drive economic growth. Portugal stands at a crossroads. It can continue down the current path, leaning ever harder on tourism and real estate while its young people flee and its infrastructure crumbles. Or it can make the hard choices, invest heavily in R&D and education, reform its business environment to attract high-value industries, fix its healthcare system, and make it possible for Portuguese people to actually afford to live in Portugal. The window is closing. An aging, shrinking population gives you less time to fix structural problems, not more. Every year of delay makes the challenge harder. The question isn't whether Portugal needs to change, it's whether it will change before it's too late. Paradise can become a prison when the people who built it can no longer afford to live there.